Hi everyone, Janey here. Welcome back to my garden and welcome to my July front garden tour. I will be coming out with a July back garden tour in a couple days, so please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss that. For those of you who've been watching me for a while, you know that I have been doing garden tours, monthly garden tours, religiously, and it has been such a benefit because I've used those garden tours to look back on my garden, and it's kind of like my garden notebook. I look at what worked well, I look at what didn't work well, I can look at what was blooming that month, I can look at what I did, where I planted, the combinations, all that type of stuff. So it's a really great thing to do, and I want to encourage all of you to do the same. So we live in Northern California, zone 9B, and we are very hot and we are very dry. It's a Mediterranean climate. And what that means is once we get into the middle of summer, July, August, some of September, we get in stretches of like triple digits, no rain in sight. So for the next 10 days, I don't think we have anything below 105 degrees Fahrenheit. So we are definitely in the dog days of summer right now. The plants are loving it. The plants are not quite stressed yet. You know, usually once we get into the really, really hot days, the plants start showing a little stress, but right now they're looking good. Well, I take that back. There's a couple that are a little stressed out, but I'll show you those. So for this garden tour, I will show you the good, the bad, and everything in between in an effort to hopefully inspire you in your own garden. But the big thing I want to inspire you is to grab your phone, grab your camera, and take record of what your garden looks like. It doesn't matter if it looks horrible, take record just so that you can look back on it and see how far you've come. So just as an overview, there's my home. It's a Rambler, California ranch, and we moved into this property almost a year ago. We moved in August 2023. So this garden is about a year old. There are a couple things that were still here, and those are the orchard trees we have here. We have 2 orange trees that are so incredibly prolific. We have a pomegranate tree. We have this massive fig tree that I'm absolutely obsessed with. And then finally, we have a lime tree over there. But pretty much everything else, oh, I'm sorry, as I come over here, there is an apricot tree that we left that's kind of struggling, not doing too good. Everything else we pretty much ripped out and started fresh. So it's kind of fun to see the garden really starting from nothing and then see what it has come to through its first season. So here, let me show you. Over here on this side, this is what I call my long border. And this long border is it's inspired by the Great Dixter long border, which is just a gorgeous combination of plants. It is a work in progress. I'm still adding plants, adding trees, all that kind of stuff, and that will come with time. I'll get to that in a little bit. Here in this middle section is my center island. My husband and I decided we were going to leave this center island for this year and do nothing with it, just for time and money and all that kind of stuff. We were going to focus on the orchard, which I'll show you in a second. But I couldn't help myself. I couldn't leave blank land open, and I already had drip irrigation to it, and so I set up a cut flower garden. So this is just temporary. There will be landscaping going in right here next year, but for right now, this is what it's looking like, and I'm enjoying it. Now over here, this is the garden that we have put most of our time and energy into this first year. And so this is what I call my orchard, obviously because of all the orchard trees, but I also call it my Best for the West garden. And the reason why I call it that is because I work with a plant brand called Proven Winners, and they are based out of the Midwest. And so they don't have a lot of information about my climate, about our climate where it's dry and hot in the summer, no humidity at all, and then a really wet winter. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to use this garden as kind of like a display garden and show everybody what works for this climate, what doesn't work for this climate, kind of take us all through. And so then eventually we can have this beautiful collection of plants that are the best for the West, which is why I call this my best for the West garden. So if you live in the same climate that I do, you can kind of look around this and you can see what I've planted. And I've planted these on purpose because these are all kind of low maintenance plants that you don't really have to worry about here in our climate. So like, what's a good example? Maybe like a hydrangea, a big leaf hydrangea. Maybe we'll need a little bit more TLC, or a peony will need a little bit more TLC in my climate. I love them. I have them in other parts of my garden, but I'm not going to put them in my best for the West garden because they just take too much care. So let me get started. I'm going to start with this garden bed right here. This is my absolute favorite garden bed right now. It is so incredibly beautiful. It is a big collection of perennials and annuals. So first off right here, these actually need to be cut back, but they have been blooming absolutely nonstop. They were the first plant to bloom this season. This is Pink Potion Salvia from Proven Winners. Pink Profusion Salvia from Proven Winners. Absolutely beautiful. It's finally July and now they finally need to be cut back. So I will get to that. There's a couple other plants I've already cut back this month. But I just wanted to show you this plant because this is how long it took me through the year. Almost halfway through the year and I had color. I'll cut it back and it will flush back again. Right next to that is hands down my favorite plant ever. This is called Plain the Blues Salvia. There's another version of this that's a little bit bigger. It's called Mystic Spires Blue Salvia that I absolutely love as well. Can you see all the bees, the bumblebees on it? It is just such a beautiful, beautiful plant. It's a perennial for me. And the reason why I like it is I really don't have to deadhead it. It'll keep blooming like this until my first frost. And if I want to come and clean it up and deadhead it, then I can. Let me show you a spent bloom over here. Here's some spent blooms. But if you can see, they still have this lavender blue color to it. So if I stand back, that plant still looks like it's totally in bloom. So I'm just going to leave it. I'm not even going to bother with it. I'm not going to worry about it. And I'm just going to enjoy it. And I don't have to deadhead this plant to make sure that it keeps blooming for me. It's just a really, really fantastic plant. Right here, this big swath of beauty is raspberry superbena. I want more of this in my garden. It is so beautiful. I have decided that this is the most visible color that I have in my garden. Basically, when I am standing at my door, my porch over there, this is the color that my eyes are drawn to. And so that makes me want to plant more of this color. So this should overwinter. This is a perennial for me here in zone 9B. So I will leave this in and then I will just keep adding more of it in the garden and I think it'll be beautiful. And then right behind that, I have my Suncredible sunflowers. This is just... It is just a workhorse. It just keeps blooming and blooming and blooming. It's a branching sunflower. It's really good to use for cut flowers as well. You don't have to deadhead it. If I was really picky, I could come in and deadhead it and make it look a little bit cleaner, but I don't have time for that, especially not in the heat. So I'm just going to leave it. I'm going to let it keep blooming and it will keep blooming until my first frost. And I just love it. Behind here, this is a perennial. This is called Banana Cream 2 Shasta Daisies. Shasta daisies are huge here where I live. Luther Burbank actually is the one who developed Shasta daisies, and he lived in Santa Rosa, which is my hometown, which is only about an hour and a half, 2 hours with traffic from here. So Shasta daisies are fantastic for the best for the West garden, and these have been bred to have this beautiful yellow tinge to it, and it's just... oh, I just love it so much. Right behind there, this is a plant that I'm shocked how much I love. This is meant to be Royal Raspberry Agastache, or Agastache, however you want to pronounce it. This color, it's just like the Royal Raspberry. I'm just drawn to this color. It's so beautiful. The bees love it. It's a perennial. I've done absolutely nothing to it. Like when I say nothing, I've done nothing to it. I fertilized it with an all-purpose fertilizer really early on in the season. and then I just haven't touched it. It is definitely a winner. Okay, so I'm gonna come this way over here. First of all, you can see my huge pile of wood chips. My husband Jason and I, we are going to be spreading this mulch this week. I know it's crazy because it's hot, but it's when the plants actually need it the most. Because of the heat, adding some mulch to them is really gonna insulate the soil, prevent any evaporation. These are all from Chip Drop. It's called getchipdrop.com. And they're free. It was absolutely free to get these. And I'm going to get another delivery hopefully pretty soon. And it's fantastic. And it's so healthy and so good for your soil. So getchipdrop.com. Right here, you can see there was that garden, and we're over here. I have 2 sweet romance lavenders right here. And I actually went to a lavender farm the other day and learned something really, really interesting about lavender. Now, where we live, so we live in hot and dry climate. I know I keep saying that. But the farmer at the lavender farm made a point to say most people underwater their lavender when they live around here, around me. Lavender actually needs more water than you think. It just doesn't want sitting water. So it's funny that she said that, because right here, we had a leak underneath our decomposed granite pathway. When we put in this metal edging, it has teeth on the bottom, and it must have nicked this tube right here, this irrigation tube. And we didn't notice it for a couple weeks, and I thought, oh my goodness, this sweet romance lavender is doomed. It's dead. It's gotten so much water, it's just not going to handle it. It's perfectly fine. It could absolutely handle the water. And I think I'm going to be watering my lavender a little bit more than I thought I have been, based on the recommendations from the lavender farmer. This big swath of yellow right here is Ladybird Sunglow Calliophis. It is a fabulous plant for the heat. It actually is a really beautiful plant in like containers or on ledges, because it'll spill over. This I just used in the landscape, which I do think it's still beautiful anyway, but it can just handle the heat. The common name for it is Texas primrose, is that right? And so obviously if it's a Texas primrose, it can absolutely handle the heat. This one, look at this beautiful thing. This is Stand By Me Lavender Clematis. It is so beautiful. I can't wait for it to get bigger. This is a bush clematis as opposed to a climbing clematis. It's going to get about 3 feet tall and wide. I was sent this plant by Proven Winners just to try it out. I didn't know if it was going to work well in the spot. This spot gets morning sun, like you see right now. It's about 7:30 right now. And then it's going to be protected by this fig tree for the rest of the day. And this lavender is so beautiful. It's been blooming nonstop, and I absolutely love it. I can't wait for it to develop more. Okay, so a couple plants that we just planted just the other day. This one right here is a Miss Molly butterfly bush. I have 3 of them in my Best for the West garden, because Buddleia is just absolutely fantastic for us. It has a really fibrous root system, so it can handle really dry climates like ours. Behind there, we have an imperial blue plumbago, and this plant I had in my old garden, and I was just missing this blue color in this garden. It's just if you need a blue plant, Imperial Blue Plumbago is absolutely the one for you. Absolutely. It has quite an intense root system, which helps it survive in our temperatures. One thing I do have to warn you, though, is this plant is going to get huge. It's going to get like 6 feet tall and 10 feet wide if I don't prune it, but of course I will be pruning it. Another one that we just planted at that same time is the White Pillar Rose of Sharon. You can see how beautiful it is. It's a semi-double Rose of Sharon, so you can see... Look at the inside. There's some petals on the inside and then white petals on the outside. Look at how many buds. Look at how many buds there are. Oh my goodness. So this one is a very tall, very narrow plant. It only gets about 4 feet wide, but it can get 10 to 12 feet tall. And it is going to be a stunner here. I wanted to distract from my hose right there. And I think that the White Pillar is just going to be perfect. It's another one that absolutely loves the heat. Okay, I wanted to show you all this one. This is my Gardenmeister fuchsia. I think I called it California fuchsia the other day, but it's actually Gardenmeister. It's a shade plant, and I thought it was going to get a ton of shade right here, but you can see this. When you see leaves like this, that's scorching of leaves. That means it's basically like a sunburn. So this plant is getting sunburned. So I don't know what to do. I think I should move it, but I don't want to move it while it's so hot. I don't know. It's not dying, so I'm just going to leave it there for a while, I think, and see how it does. Look at how beautiful these blooms are. Isn't that gorgeous? So the plant, when it's healthy, it has really dark, almost like burgundy edges, and then it has these coral-colored blooms that the hummingbirds absolutely love, and it's a fantastic shade plant. So if you have shade and you want some color, this is a really good plant to plant there. I just think I put it in the wrong spot. So I'll be watching that, but that's definitely one that isn't doing as good. Over here, this is Blew My Mind Evolvulus XL. You can see I have some really wonderful weeds in here too. This plant is so cool. So it's early enough in the morning that the blooms are all closed. But once it gets hit with sun, let me see if I can find one. Once it gets hit with sun, it will pop open just like that, like in a matter of minutes. And this whole thing will be covered in blue, which is going to be really, really beautiful. Hopefully it'll pop open by the time I'm done with this tour, and I'll come back and I'll show you all in just a little bit. Okay, so this plant right here, this is a new one for Proven Winners. It's super, super interesting. I'll show you a little bit further down the lane. I have Whirlwind Blue Scaevola, which is one of my favorite plants because, again, it can handle the heat. You can see the theme I have here. And it's just such a fantastic plant. Well, they've come out with a new version of Scaevola. Scaevola is known as the fan flower. And the reason why it's called fan flower is because all its blooms are off to one side. You know what? Let me just take you over to Whirlwind Blue. So here's Whirlwind Blue Scaevola. And if you look at the blooms or the flowers, they're all off to one side. They're all pointing on one side. So this is a new version for 2025. And look at those blooms. They're all the way around. It's called Star Diva. I think this is Star Diva Pink. It's just so cool. And I haven't, this is the first time I've planted it. I'll be watching it, but look at how beautiful my Whirlwind Blue Scaevola is. It's incredible. If this performs anywhere near as good as the Whirlwind Blue Scaevola, I will be so happy because it's just another interesting plant that's going to do so well in my garden. And you can see backed up, I planted, 6 plants right there, and they're looking pretty good. This is the pink one, and you can see it's kind of this like faded blush pink. It's definitely not a bright pink, but it's really, really beautiful, and I'll keep you all updated on how that's doing. Right here along the lane, I have lemon coral sedum. This is what I did in my last property is I lined my pathway with lemon coral sedum. I am going to continue this. I don't know how far yet, but I will be continuing this more. This is just all the plants that I had for right now. And so I just really like it because I just think it's almost like boxwood hedging, but for a Mediterranean, Mediterranean climate. For a Mediterranean climate, there's always like, rosemary hedging does really, really well in a Mediterranean climate, and then this does really, really well if you want that proper chartreuse. So I know I'm going to be adding more of this. I just don't know how much more, but again, this is all a work in progress. This is a plant I love. This is Helen von Stein lamb's ear. These are babies. I just planted these. This is going to get huge. This whole thing is going to be covered with Helen von Stein lamb's ear just from these 3 plants. I'll show you some more over to my right in a little bit, but they're beautiful. This is the foliage color. It's silvery, it's soft. And then if you look at that compared to the lemon coral sedum, it's absolutely stunning. I just cut back my orange blaze Kniphofia. This is another one that has been blooming non-stop this whole season. And this is the first time I've had to cut it back, like the pink profusion salvia. So this is absolutely a winner. Now, I do have to say, I keep saying I'll show you other ones. Kniphofia, you gotta let grow. You can't, it's not an annual, so you can't plant it and expect tons of blooms the first season. These were planted last fall and they were pretty big plants when I planted them. So give them time and then they're gonna start just blooming like crazy. And they're such an interesting flower. They come in a whole bunch of different colors. I really want to find a pink one. I haven't found a pink one yet, but I know they make pink ones. So it's just a really, really great plant. Just give it time to grow. In front of that, that, I have Cat's Pajamas Nepeta that I actually just sheared back. That's another beautiful one. And then behind them, look at this contrasting color, the orange and then the denim and lace Russian sage. Isn't this beautiful? And this one is so interesting, this variety of Russian sage, because that's how tall it is. Look, I mean, it is not so tall. Like normal Russian sage gets huge and it flops over, and this is very compact, and their blooms are even more compact than normal Russian sage. So it's really, really beautiful. Behind that, I have an Esperanza. This is a chiclet orange Esperanza. This one is totally showing off. I love it. It's going to get 6 feet tall, so it's still a baby. Again, this garden is less than a year old, but I'm really excited about this plant, this shrub, because I think it's going to do really, really well here. And then over here, I just planted this. I'm showing you all this so I can have record of it. This is my Verbena de la Mina. This is a fantastic plant, and it's such a funny plant for us. My husband loves the smell of this plant. He was so happy when I planted this, and he's like, oh, thank you. I love the smell of that plant. I literally cannot smell anything. And I've asked a whole bunch of people, can you smell this? Can you smell this? And some people say they can smell it, and some people say they can't smell it. So if you ever see this plant at the garden center, it's called Verbena de la Mina. The butterflies love it. The swallowtail butterflies are obsessed with it. Let me know if you can smell this, because I think it's kind of like cilantro. Some people like it, some people hate it. Some people can smell Verbena de la Mina, and some people can't. So here's a look at this garden bed from this back side here. Here's the Agastaki. Look at how good that looks. And with the lemon coral sedum in front of it. Fantastic. This is Jukebox Pyrocomeles. This is a shrub. This is supposed to be another alternative for boxwood for us. You can hedge this. These are very young plants, and I don't think I'm showing them off to their true potential, because I have a dog that really likes this plant. Really likes to pee on this plant, and this plant cannot handle dog pee, obviously. Maybe once it gets bigger, it's going to do better, but right now, I'm kind of babying it a little bit, but it might come out. Right behind there is my Rise Up Emberaze Rose. This one is so beautiful. Look at that color. So you can see I like really, really saturated, bright colors in my garden, because I think you need that when you live in kind of a dry environment. And I don't have dark mulch. I have this regular wood color mulch, and that is because it was free, right? And I need these saturated colors to pop against that. So really beautiful, really saturated, and it's just a gorgeous rose. Okay, coming back this way, I wanted to show you these massive Helen von Stein lamb's ears. Look at these guys. They're huge. They're absolutely huge, and they're going to keep spreading, but they're really easy to keep under control. You can divide them very easily. Everybody jokes and says you should never have to buy a Helen von Stein lamb's ear, because you can just get some from your gardener friends. I did have to buy these, but that's okay. Right behind that, I have Back in Black sedum. Very, very beautiful, and you can see the color combination I was going for. So silvery green, Back in Black sedum, and then back here is Niagara Falls panicum, which is again another silvery blue grass that is, it's just going to be beautiful. So you can see the textures. This is silver, this is black, this is silver, this is a big, thick leaf, and then those are more grassy leaves. So color and texture is going to be beautiful. Right over here, I wanted to show you all this plant. This is called Serendipity Allium. It's only hardy to zone 8, or at least that's what it's listed as. And this is a perfect example that don't always trust the plant tags, because sometimes sometimes you can push it. So I don't know if this allium would work well in a humid zone 9, but in a dry zone 9, it's absolutely looking beautiful. Now I do have something unfortunate to say. You can see, if you recognize that, we do have gophers, and we are working on taking care of them. It's been quite an ordeal. And as I'm walking out here right now, I'm noticing these new mounds. So we will be setting traps later. Yes. Back here, well, first let me show you this boom chocolata geranium. Isn't that beautiful? Oh, this purple color is just so gorgeous. It's another one that's only hardy to zone 8 is what it says, but you can see it's doing well. And this is what part of what I want to show for my Best for the West garden is that no, these plants actually do really well for us. Behind that, I have the brilliant pink iceberg rose. So this performs just as well as the white iceberg rose. It's absolutely gorgeous. It is no fuss, not any infection or bug or any, like it's just so beautiful. And it has this gorgeous pink color, so I love it. So you can see my decomposed granite pathway right there. And just so you all know, we are going to be extending it, coming around here into this garden bed. But we just stopped there for this year just because, you know, we couldn't financially and time-wise do the whole thing at once. So luckily this edging, this metal edging is only in 4-foot parts. So it's going to be really easy just to pull out one of the parts and then just extend the pathway over here. So you can kind of see where I'm leaving plants because this is where the pathway is going to go. So over here, I have my deodar cedar. It's going to get huge. It's going to get like 40 feet tall. But in the meantime, I'm going to plant around it because I might as well. Underneath is this gorgeous verbena. This is called Homestead verbena. It is such a fabulous plant. I know it does really well in the south too. It is just such a fantastic, beautiful color. And I just can't recommend this plant enough. It's called Homestead verbena. Behind it is a new one that I just planted. This is called Winecraft Black Smoke Bush. I love it. I feel like anything you plant next to this plant is going to pop and look absolutely beautiful. In the early summer, it does have this big, beautiful, smoky seed pods, which is why it gets its name. Winecraft Black Smoke Bush or Smoke Bush. And I'll link the video in the description down below. But this plant is actually a fire resistant plant. So if you live in an area that does get fires, this is a fantastic plant to plant around the perimeter of your garden because it will actually slow progress of fire. So here's a look at the smoke bush from back here in the deodar cedar. And if you can see right here, this is my daylily. This is Blood, Sweat, and Tears daylily. Now, I never really was a fan of daylilies. I just wasn't really interested in them. They didn't really do it for me. But I think this one is making me change my mind because look at that plant. Isn't it beautiful? It's just, I just really enjoy it. And it's that same color as a raspberry superbena that I really can see from far away, just like this Homestead verbena. And it's just making me really like this plant, especially with this whole combination right here. I'm loving it. So we live on a country road, and there are in the morning, it's about 7:45 right now, and everybody is going to work right now. All the farmers and farm hands and everything like that. So if you hear the cars driving by, that's what it is. We have this little dinky fence right now that we are going to be replacing hopefully soon, but you know, budget-wise, I don't know. So one of the things I'm thinking about is what I'm going to do for a hedge. You can see my neighbors over there. They've planted a whole bunch of oleander as a hedge, and it's really beautiful. My other neighbors over here have a whole bunch of trees in the front of their house for a little bit of noise control and privacy. And so I'm really debating what I want to plant. So I'm hoping this fall I can plant something either on this side of the fence or on the other side of the fence to make it a hedge to help with some of the noise and help with some privacy as well, because this fence, it's just not doing it. Okay, so let me take you over here to this big shrub plant. This is a Matilaha poppy. It is otherwise known as a fried egg poppy, and it is so beautiful. It's not really their bloom season right now, so you won't see too many. I just planted this last fall along with this one right there. It's going to get like 10 feet tall and wide. They're going to get absolutely huge, and they're going to be so beautiful when they're covered with the fried egg poppies. They're so beautiful. So this is one, it is very hard to get established in your garden, but once you get it established, you basically don't have to do anything to it. So this is my weeping willow tree. This was a gift from my friend, Robbie, and it's just beautiful. It is going to be a stunner in this garden bed. Now, of course, a weeping willow tree loves lots of water, lots and lots of water. So it doesn't really fit with my Best for the West garden, but I'm considering this garden bed right here not totally Best for the West garden. I don't know, maybe I'm cheating a little bit, but that's okay. So the pathway is going to come from over there, and then it's going to come loop around here right by where Monty is and loop around underneath the weeping willow tree as it grows. But I just love it. I just love it so much. Okay, and then right over here, I have this huge bank of Firefly Peach Sky yarrow. It's a beautiful yarrow. It is very, very prolific. It's been blooming nonstop. Gorgeous. I have to say, I'm not a huge fan of the color. It's not my favorite color in the garden. It does remind me a lot of Dusty Miller blooms, which I cut off anyway. I don't like the look of them. And this is just like a whole plant of Dusty Miller blooms. So I really like the new growth that comes out. It's this kind of like peachy, pinky color. But then as it fades, it's this, it's this Dusty Miller Artemisia yellow color, and it's just, I'm just not a huge fan of it. I did plant another one. It's Firefly Fuchsia. I'm waiting for that to grow. I just planted it, and I will let you know about the color of that yarrow. So this one, if you love yarrow and if you love this yellow color, it's a beautiful plant. It just reminds me too much of the Dusty Miller blooms that I try and cut off anyway. And then I have a whole plant that looks like I didn't cut off the Dusty Miller blooms. Okay, then I did want to show you all my gladiolas. What I did here, first of all, this is absolutely terrible, terrible soil. This is probably the worst soil on my whole property, and that's saying a lot because I don't have great soil. The whole long border is not very good, but this, I need to amend it all. And what I mean by amending is I need to come and I need to put 6 inches of compost on everything. It makes a huge, huge difference. And so I didn't amend anything, and this soil is really terrible. So what I did is I planted a plant that I knew could handle that horrible soil, and that was gladiolas. And so I succession planted gladiolas. I planted about 15 every 2 weeks, and it's working. Like I have blooms that faded and then new blooms. And so I'm constantly getting blooms. The only problem is I should have tripled the amount that I planted. What I did is I planted 15 every 2 weeks, and I should have planted 45 or something. I definitely should have planted more, because to me it just looks way too sparse. But I did want to show you the color of this one. Look at how beautiful that is. Isn't that gorgeous? Definitely my favorite color in the garden right now. Okay, before I go down the rest of my long border over here, I want to show you all the cut flower garden from this view, because this view really gives you a good idea of that compost. So when we got compost delivered, we amended the whole Best for the West garden with 6 inches of compost, and oh my goodness, it made such a difference to the soil. But when we got the compost delivered, we got it delivered in a huge pile right here, kind of like that. And this was all compost, a bunch of compost. And then over here, there was no compost. And I don't know if you can tell the difference, but everything over on this side is struggle bus. It is not doing well. It doesn't look good. Some of it, it's just a horrible, horrible cut flower garden. But over here on this side, oh my goodness, it is doing absolutely gorgeous, and it is as happy as can be. Same with this Rudbeckia and this Robina. We transplanted this from my Zigzag planter, and we just threw it in here. It had compost. It's totally happy. We have all these bulbs. This was a collection of bulbs from Proven Winners. Gorgeous, beautiful. Look at this. Absolutely doing stunning. So this whole garden, this cut flower garden, look at all my zinnias. Look at how good they're doing. And then as we get further this way, this is a random sunflower I'm leaving. As it gets further this way, they get worse and worse and worse. Look at that. These were all planted at the same time. So I have that one right there compared to this one right here. I mean, and it's not water. They're all getting the same amount of water. I've checked the water pressure and all that kind of stuff. I'm telling you guys, it's the compost. It literally is an outline of where we had that pile of compost. And because this was just kind of a last minute cut flower garden and I didn't really take care of it and I just kind of, did it as easy as I could, it really is showing the difference of amending your soil versus not amending your soil. So you can see the only thing that's really doing well over here is the gladiolas. And that's pretty much it. These gladiolas. That's everything else is just not happy, like on the verge of death. Look at this poor zinnia. Poor thing. So yeah, huge, huge example of how important it is to amend your soil. So I will enjoy all my flowers over there and I won't worry about it too much. Oh, let me show you another example. So I didn't amend the soil over around the propane tank and we planted corn and the corn's doing fine. But then over here, we put a whole bunch of extra soil in this berm, this little hill right here. And I planted one pumpkin, and then on the berm, another pumpkin, another pumpkin, another pumpkin, and another pumpkin. Now these three are the champions. They're big ones, so obviously they're going to get bigger. But this one is wee little, something like that. I'll put it on the screen and you can see the difference of that plant versus that plant. See the difference? So I am a total believer in compost, amending your soil, putting 6 inches of compost on top, and then putting mulch over that. To me, it's just night and day. So on that same note, I'll come over here to my long border that I did not amend, and it is not looking so hot. It's okay. It's going to do fine. It's going to be okay. I'll come in and I will put some compost around it once we get some. But everything is it's just doing okay. I did push it and put some bobo hydrangeas there. They're a little unhappy. I'll put some shade cloth, but I'm a big believer in leaving your plants, especially your hydrangeas, leaving them for 3 years so that they can develop a really good root system, and then you can see how they do. So we'll see how it does. This soil was absolutely horrible when I was digging in it. And I tried my best to amend it around the planting hole, but it's just not. I might have to completely restart in this long border because honestly, nothing's looking that good. And I know it's because of the soil. It's just really hard, really, really rocky soil. Okay, so I told you I was going to show you the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I just showed you some bad and some ugly, but here's some good. This is my Zigzag planter. I love it. I am absolutely obsessed with it. I had an idea for what I wanted in there, and it is performing. So I have purple fountain grass. I have 6 of them. They are getting huge, which I knew they would get huge. I am probably going to have to take these out this winter once I cut them back, and that's totally fine. I was planning on taking them out anyway. I might just replace them with smaller purple fountain grasses because I just love this look. Or I was thinking, what's that really tall grass? Carl Forster. I was thinking about putting some Carl Forster grass in here next year. I think that would be really pretty as well. So anyway, I just love the grass in the Zigzag planter. I do have this beautiful Fragrant Delight heliotrope, which just smells absolutely incredible. This is Dichondra Silver Falls that you could say is happy, right? You could say that's a happy plant. Look at that. So this I actually planted last fall and it overwinters for us. So I'm going to be leaving that in. And then here is the beautiful pink cashmere superbena. I love this plant. I think it is so beautiful. This poor artist blue ageratum, it's going to get swallowed by it, but that's okay. It's just such a beautiful, beautiful plant. It's really, really gorgeous. It's new this year. Here's a better look at the floss flower. This is Artist Blue. I've also planted the Artist Pearl floss flower from Proven Winners, and I didn't like the pearl. I really, really like the blue. I think it is absolutely beautiful, especially with that soft pink. So this is kind of the look I was going for this, and I just think it is, it's so pretty. The hanging baskets behind it, that has Super Tunia Bordeaux. It has Super Bean Plum Wine, and then it has Super Tunia Limoncello. They need to be cut back. It's that time of year that baskets need to be cut back, and I hate doing it, you guys. I hate cutting back baskets. I might even ask my husband to do it because I just can't bring myself to do it, cutting off blooms. But it's so important because you can see they're starting to get a little leggy, but they're still looking good. All right, coming around here, I want to show you our front porch. We do have a family of, gosh, I can't remember the name of the birds now. We have a family of baby birds up in the wreath. Let me see if I can show you. So we basically have not been using our front door for the past month, and that's okay. Hopefully they'll fledge pretty soon. On either side, I have coral bark maple that's absolutely beautiful. Underneath that, another one of my absolute favorite plants. This is Surefire Rose Begonia. The reason why I love this plant is you can plant it in shade, it'll bloom. You can plant it in sun, it'll bloom. It's just the happiest little plant you ever did see. And so it's just one of those really, really easy plants that can handle whatever you give to it. It's totally worth it. Okay, so here is my star jasmine espalier. I have to go train it, but you can see the growth on it. It's looking really, really good. It blooms in May. That is the time that star jasmine blooms, and it's just such a wonderful plant. Underneath it is what I'm calling my black and white garden. So I have black mondo grass, and then I have this white evolvulus that's still, since I planted it, I have yet to get a single bloom off of it. I love the foliage. The foliage is beautiful. It's this beautiful silvery color, but when I bought it, it said that it was going to bloom until first frost, these beautiful little white blooms. And I'm not even kidding when I say I've not gotten a single bloom off of it. So to compensate for the poor performance of this plant, I planted this plant that has beautiful performance. It's called Super Bean Whiteout. It is so beautiful. I like this plant just as much as I like the Super Bean Pink Cashmere because of how prolific it is. So I didn't plant these that long ago, and they're already starting to fill in with white blooms, which is exactly what I want. So I'll have the black mondo grass, the white blooms, and then I think I'm just going to leave the morning glory in because I really do like the silvery foliage. I think it's pretty. Over here on this berm, I always remind people, I am going to be putting a fence, a gate all the way around here. That's why I have this berm right here. I know it looks a little out of place right now, but I have Truffula Pink Gomphrena and underneath my Lavender Twist Redbud. I need to stake this redbud so bad. Let me show you. So I got to come stake that up pretty soon. Poor thing. I mean, luckily it's young. It'll be easy to stake it up. But then underneath that, I did Goldilocks Rocks Creeping Jenny, which is a wonderful combination. The pink Gomphrena with the Goldilocks Rocks. Very, very pretty. Here's another one of my Miss Molly butterfly bushes. This one I planted last fall. You can see it's a little bit more further along and very, very pretty. Here is a hot and cold Kniphofia. And you can see these I just planted this spring. So these are baby Kniphofia plants. They're still doing really well. You can see over here, look at these guys. They're still doing really beautifully, but they're a lot smaller than my Orange Blaze Kniphofia, and that's just because they're younger plants. Here's the Surefire Rose again. You can see I've planted them here. So this gets shade from the orange tree almost all day, and then it gets hot afternoon sun, and these guys are just perfectly happy. They love their life right here. It's just such a good plant. Here's that grouping of Whirlwind Blue Scaevola I showed you earlier, another grouping of Banana Cream 2, and then over here, actually, let me show you this view because I really like this view. So these are my iceberg roses. Underneath it, I have Meteor Shower Verbena and then a grouping of Lemon Coral Sedum, and it's just such a fantastic combination. It's so, so beautiful. So if you're looking for a good combination, this one is excellent. So coming over here to this garden bed, I'll wrap up with this garden bed because this garden bed is one that the gophers have absolutely decimated. They have taken quite a number of plants. It's very, very frustrating. Like I said, we're going to set traps and try and get them. And this garden bed is a work in progress. I've lost a couple of shrub plants, and then I had some beautiful artichokes over here that they ate. I still have 2 cardoons right here, luckily, so that's nice. They're not touching the lavender, so you can see I have Sweet Romance lavender kind of coming around there, but it's definitely something that I need to take care of. It's something that I've never dealt with before. I've never dealt with gophers, so it's kind of a new thing. I've had a lot of advice on how to handle it, and we have planned. We are working on it slowly but surely. So it's okay. It's okay to have problems in the garden. The garden is never done. That's kind of how I think about it. It's a journey. It's something to enjoy. It's something to come out and work on every day. So if you do get something like a gopher, yes, it's so incredibly frustrating, but it's part of the journey. So I'm trying not to get too upset. And really, this is my first year in this garden. I haven't even been here for a full year, so I am learning the ins and the outs of this garden. I'm learning how important it is for me to amend my soil. I'm learning how important it is for rodent control. I'm learning how important it is for really saturated, bright colors in this garden. So it's a learning process. I'm enjoying every moment, and I am so enjoying you all coming along with me as well. So I hope you all enjoyed this, and I hope you all have a chance to get in your garden today.